Our story today is a true story that occurred between 1974 and 1976. On November 13, 1974, the son, Ronald DeFeo, returned to his family home at 3:15 in the morning. He did not enter through the main door, but rather through a side door leading to the family's private dock. He sneaked into his sister Judy's room and found her wearing her pajamas in front of the closet. With the utmost coldness, he took out from the folds of his clothes a pistol equipped with a silencer and fired a bullet into his sister's head, killing her instantly, and her body piled up inside the cupboard. Then he headed coldly to the bedrooms of the rest of his family. They were 5: his parents, 2 brothers, and his younger sister. He shot them all while they were sleeping. They all died while they were in a deep sleep. It was a terrible massacre in which 6 innocent people were killed, without guilt and without precedent. The police officers were investigating Ronald, and he told them very calmly that he was not the one who did that, but that there was an evil spirit that had taken control of him and instructed him to kill his family, and that he had done so on the orders of that spirit. The house remained empty after the massacre that took place there until it was offered for sale. So the couple, George Lutz, who was newly married to Kathy, who had 3 children from a previous marriage, went. The two go to inspect the house. They are amazed by the house with its beautiful design, luxurious furniture, swimming pool in the middle of its garden, and its private dock on the beach. To their surprise, the amount required was only $80,000. George is skeptical about the price and says incredulously, "But a house like this costs no less than $120,000. Why is this low?" George would wake up every day at exactly 3:15 a.m. without any reason, feeling very cold. Then he would go downstairs and make sure the door leading to the dock was closed, which he found open every time, even though he made sure every time that he had closed it tightly. Later, George knew that this was the timing of the crime. Also, for no reason, the house was always filled with swarms of flies, even though the weather was winter and very cold. Kathy suffered from nightmares in which she saw the crime that pained the DeFeo family in detail. Her children also began sleeping on their stomachs in a way they had never been accustomed to before, and she was in the same shape in which the bodies of the dead children were found in the house. They were killed in their sleep while they were sleeping on their stomachs. Then the matter with Kathy began to get worse. Kathy began to wake up from sleep and feel as if someone was hugging her tightly and loving her back. But she did not see anything. She might feel that even though her body was unable to resist. Then George accidentally discovered that there was a small room measuring 4 feet by 5 feet behind a wooden wall of shelves in the basement. This room was not present in any copy of the architectural drawing of the house, and its walls were painted red. They called it the Red Room. That room was dark, making one feel shivering just by passing by it. As for the family dog, he would avoid even approaching it. If this happened by chance while playing with the children, he would not stop barking madly. His body hair would stand up and his eyes would shine, staring into nothingness. He does not calm down unless they keep him away from her. George was noticing that there were certain areas of the house where he felt very cold, and Kathy was noticing areas where she smelled a strong scent of perfume. This perfume did not belong to any member of the Lutz family. All this without any of the Lutz family seeing anything, but only these observations, these uncomfortable feelings and bad nightmares, but without anyone witnessing anything, but it seems. The sightings happened little by little. While George and Kathy were sitting together in front of the burning fireplace, what appeared to them appeared. A demon behind the fire burning in the fireplace. Half of his head was burning and flying with the flame in the fireplace. Then he quickly disappeared. If they had not seen him together and it was morning, they would have thought they were dreaming. Then Kathy's daughter, Melissa, came and told them that she had a friend named Judy who visited her every day in her room and played with her. The couple was amazed and asked the 5-year-old girl to describe her friend to them. But the little girl could only say she is very cute, but her eyes are red. George was hearing what sounded like military music and annoying sounds. These sounds were very loud, and they were coming from the basement. And when George went down to the basement to investigate the matter, the noise stopped. Then one night, George suddenly woke up to the sound of someone slamming the door of the house. Then he quickly went downstairs only to find everything quiet, even though the sound was so strong that it woke everyone up. George called the police, who checked everything, then announced that there had been no attempt to break into the house, and then they left the house. George says, "One of the policemen thought I was hallucinating, and another thought of filing a report against me on charges of disturbing the authorities. George's nerves could no longer bear it, and he began to frequent the bar and become addicted to alcohol." What is strange is that George later learned that it was the same bar that the killer Ronald Defoe frequented, called Witch's Brew. Kathy told her husband that she was thinking about seeking help from the church in the strange things that happened because she feared for him and her children. But they did not do so, but after a while they were forced to do so after the frightening events escalated more and more. One night, Kathy entered her daughter Melissa's room to make sure she was asleep, but she found her awake, playing with her toys, and she found the window open. So she went angrily to close it, scolding her little girl for opening the window in this bitter cold, and the little girl screamed, saying, "The window was not open, Mother. Judy had just jumped out of the window. She was playing with me. When she felt you coming, she ran in fear of you. Then she opened the window and jumped out." Kathy looked at her daughter in astonishment, then looked out the window to find a pair of red eyes staring at her in the darkness, and then they disappeared in seconds. Then, while Kathy was lying on her bed preparing to sleep, she found herself being lifted off the bed to a height of approximately 2 feet by an invisible force. This continued for a few seconds before everything ended. Then, on the morning of January 1st, 1976, a huge, red-eyed pig appeared in the garden of the house. It quickly disappeared in seconds, as if it had evaporated. What was strange was that the pig left traces of its hooves on the snow that was falling and flooding the area, and everyone saw the traces of those strange-looking cloven hooves. Their patience ended. By searching in the public library, they learned that the house was built in 1692 on a mass grave of Native Americans who were tortured before being brutally killed by the European occupiers. This house belonged to the leader of a Dutch colony during the wars with the Native Americans. So the couple decided to try to pray for salvation from the evil threatening them. Indeed, George brought a silver cross and stood with Kathy in the living room, and they began to pray. Here the couple heard a collective voice, as if it were a choir, ordering them to stop immediately. On January 14th, the couple tried to pray again. Here, George stopped narrating what happened, saying only that they were very terrifying events and that he did not want to remember them. The family decided that tonight would be their last night at home. In the morning, the couple called Father Mancuso and told him that they would leave the house and live with Kathy's mother at her home in the suburb of Deer Park. They gathered their light belongings and all left the house. The next day, furniture movers came to transport the family's belongings to the grandmother's house. The strange thing is that the workers did not notice any supernatural phenomena during their stay in the house, while the couple claimed that the curse chased them to their grandmother's house. On September 13, 1977, Jay Inson's book, A Year, appeared. Jay tells us in the introduction to the book that this book is nothing but a narration of supernatural events that happened to the Lutz family between 1975 and 1976, which led to them fleeing their home in the end. The book's sales were estimated at 10 million copies of its various editions. Father Mancuso had sent a written letter while he was called to testify in the case against the book. Then he returned in a television interview in 1980 and admitted that he had come to bless the house and heard someone telling him to leave. He also felt as if someone was slapping him in the face, and he did not see anyone in front of him. On March 6, 1976, the couple Ed and Orient, who were famous for studying paranormal phenomena, came to the house. The team took many infrared pictures and snapshots of the house. In one of those shots, they were surprised by a devilish boy, as they described it, with glowing red eyes standing on the internal staircase between the 2 floors of the house and looking at them with defiance and sarcasm. Based on what happened, the Warren couple acknowledged the credibility of these facts and that the house was haunted by evil unseen forces. Hans Holzer, who also specializes in parapsychology, also came to the house and supported the Warren couple's opinion of the credibility of these facts. Then George and Kathy announced on live television their willingness to sit on the lie detector test and requested the testimony of Stephen Kaplan, one of the most famous ghost hunters in America. By contacting Dr. Stephen, he acknowledged the veracity of that incident and said that he was ready to confront anyone who questioned the credibility of the events. Rather, the couple got what they wanted, and they were tested on a lie detector machine, but the device did not record any indication that they were lying. It remains to say that the aforementioned house still exists to this day, but it was renovated and its external appearance, address, and mailbox were changed. All this in order to prevent curious people from reaching it and gathering around it. In May 2010, the house was put up for sale for $115 million. In August of the same year, a local investor bought it for $950,000. This man made an advertisement in the newspapers announcing that people would be allowed to visit the house for $50 per person. The advertisement stipulated that the visitor had the right to spend a full hour wandering around the house freely, but he was forbidden from going up to the second floor or going down to the basement. However, hundreds of people flocked to the house every day just to see and tour it. Goodbye and take care.